Day Trading Radio presents a Briguy trading production.
Well, hey there. This is Briguy at daytradingradio.com. Hope everyone's doing all right. Thanks, RPM, for the nice little introduction there. We won't say anything about you get me started late because I've already got my stuff started late plenty of times, right? All right. Good to see everybody in the room here. I see I'm going to do a little romper room routine. I see Sunny and Huksu and Kumar and RJ, Die Laughing, and RPM. Okay, thanks for the feedback on the sound. And already checked the levels for the mixer. I hope I have that set right. If I decide to put some tunage on, we should be able to do that without blowing anything up. And let me just clear off the little card there. I've also got my laptop set up wired into the internet instead of wireless, and that should cut down on the delay I was running into once before, and going to try to be a little more conscious of that. We've got the ES here for all you hardcore traders out there, so you can feel free to take a look at that while I just get a few things set up on the other monitor and close out some of these other programs I had running. So in tonight's show, we're going to take a look at a couple more websites. That's what we looked at in the second episode. And like I mentioned the first time around, I'm not intending this to be a complete guide to trading and narrow down all of the options you have out there to just a few. But instead, I thought it would be good for us to just be able to trade some ideas, so to speak, and things that folks have found helpful and useful. And so I'm going to be showing that to you folks, and you can give us some feedback on what you like. If you've got some sites that you'd like to suggest, I have a link in the member forum that you can take a look at, and it had a link to a survey that we ask you guys to fill out, and what I'll do is I'll get that posted in the room again for you. In the meantime, if you can also sign into the member chat room, and if you have any questions, just send me a private message. I'm going to do my best to multitask here by looking at the other computer where I have the chat running, and I have it running on two machines, but as you know, things can be missed. You guys are going to have conversations without me and about me, I'm sure, so those questions might end up scrolling by. And tomahawk is not chopped liver. In fact, why don't we mention that tonight's episode is sponsored by Tommy Ray's Barbecue. Delicious barbecue for all your good eatings. Alright, and I believe it's TommyRays.com. TOMMYS. TommyRays.com. Go check it out. He's got some geek that's working on his website to get his shopping cart going, but until it's up and running, you can feel free to give him a call, and he'll get the stuff packaged up with love and send it over. Alright. So, let me get that link. I posted it in the room there so you guys can check that out. And what I'm going to do now is just move our little viewing panel over so we can take a look at these websites together. Here's the website on the Trader Zone, the member forum. And as we mentioned once before, this is one of those tools that you guys can make use of. If you've got any trading ideas, recommendations, suggestions, there's a myriad of places you can post those. And then when you log in the next time, there's a link here for new posts. I can just kind of drag that up there for you. See here where it says new posts? You can click on that and it'll take you to the last couple of posts since you were logged in. Now, I might have actually read all the new posts, so they're not coming out here. But the more this happens, the more this will get populated. Alright, so let's take a look at a site that we left off on our list of ones that members were recommending. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to move this to another screen, as I'm realizing now if I click on some things I'm going to end up changing what the broadcast is going to say. Alright, so I'm not sure if we got to this one last time. I don't believe we did. And I'm going to paste this into the member room and show it to you on the screen as well. And this is Investopedia. Now we talked last week about a site, I believe it was the Chart School site, and that one had a few good resources for you to see things like chart candles and how to be able to see what the difference between the chart candles were. It also had some classes on understanding trading and different things. So if you take a look at Investopedia, this is coming over from one of our members, and I don't think this member was unique to this. This is one that many use. I didn't blow through here, so if anyone is on here that has used this site before and knows it better than I, feel free to comment on it in the room. I also forgot to mention that we have Skype, so if you'd like to call into the show, you're welcome to do that. I know I offered that last time, and what I realized I did by mistake was not check it during the show, because some people had sent me friend requests and wanted to call in, and I forgot to accept the request during the show. So let's try not to do that this time. If you guys want to Skype into the show, my handle for now is Mr. Enticon. You can see that here at the top, how it's spelled, M-R-E-N-T-I-C-O-N. And one day we'll get into an explanation of what that's about. But that's how you can get a hold of me, and I'll keep an eye on that. But for now, let's get back to this Investopedia. So Investopedia is good for understanding terminology. So I'll give you for instance, today we had this nice show with Die Laughing and Trade for Pay, the options preschool, and I noticed a question came up in the room, and it simply said, why is it called an options chain? So it was a good question, right? Options chain. So I actually went and brought up this site, Investopedia, and I typed in options chain. Now, one thing I noticed about this site is it's heavily medicated with advertisements. And of course, these days, if you're going to have anything on the internet and you're not going to charge for it, then you're going to have advertisements. So when you do come into sites like that, you have to be sensitive to the results. So what do I mean by that? Well, take a look at this section here. After I typed in options chain, I've got some links here that says options chain, but you know what? Right here in gray, you see it says sponsored links. So this is not an answer to your question. This is actually a section of the website, and I hope I'm not explaining things too simply, because you guys are some educated traders out there, but just to maybe somebody else is watching this show in the future and this is going to be helpful to them as well. But when you have a website, you can designate a section of the page to be for advertising. You put some code in there from Google, for example, or Yahoo, whoever you have an account with for the advertisements, and then Google will take care of populating that section with some advertisement. By part of the agreement you have with Google is that you're not going to try to trick people into clicking these, and so you will put the words sponsored links on the page. That's part of the deal. Unfortunately, that's where the deal stops, because for most people it looks like a regular answer to your question. But having used websites for as long as I have, I've grown accustomed to watching out for that. So here you got sponsored links over here. If I scroll this over to the right, you'll see there's some more sponsored links over here. So these aren't specifically answers to your question. I'm trying to look up options chain. Those answers are down here. So very nice. You've got definition section. Down here is an article section. Let's scroll down to the end here and see what else we have. Oh, here's tutorials, guides, and walkthroughs. That could be helpful. Not sure if you need that for the options chain, but it's there. Here's exam preparation for Series 7. Well, I can tell you, if you don't know what an options chain is and you're going for your Series 7 exam, you're in trouble. FAQs. Here's something I saw in the room. Someone mentioned about daisy chain. And here's a question: what is daisy chain? Videos and slideshows. And then further on, you've got, again, sponsored links. So if you don't want to get sent off to another website that's going to just drag you all over the place, then stick to the sections above. So an options chain, we're kind of looking at that as a definition type of thing. So here you go. Option chain definition, Investopedia. That sounds pretty good. Here's the reply. Definition of an option chain. And you guys can look that up there. A form of quoting options prices through a list of all of the options for a given security. And there's the rest of it there. And it looks like they have a section here with the definition, and then underneath, Investopedia explains option chain. So my take is that with other topics you'll get some more detailed explanations. Options chain is basically the list itself. And being the geek that I am, I actually also did a little search on the internet for options chain to try to find some history of the terminology. And I couldn't exactly find that. I'd be curious to know if anyone in the room has any comments on why it's called a chain in particular. I know that in survey, for example, if you're measuring property and you've seen the guys using those transits and levels in order to measure things out, and we measure in this country anyway by feet and inches, and you might show how wide the property is, so many feet. Well, if you go back on some old surveys, they would actually give you the distance in chains and links within the chain. So that came about when you were measuring long pieces of property. You actually had a chain. I know I'm digressing here, but you might actually realize that there's a popular American sport where they still use a chain to measure things. Anyway, that's trivia for another time. So, Investopedia, there you go. You've got definitions, trying to look things up. Let me bring this window back to the top here. So, let's say you were attending the preschool class and you wanted to know what a call was. Again, got some advertisement, and actually on this website it brought me right to the ticker symbol call and brought up MagicJack. So there's some stats on MagicJack, and just like most of our financial sites we've been looking at, you can enter symbols. Interestingly, on this page they had a separate section for enter symbol, but I plugged it in the search box and that came up first, and then underneath it you've got definitions, articles, etc. So if we go into call option definition, that's kind of the calls we were talking about today. You can come in here, get your definition, some explanation, and maybe even a video on a call option. So if you guys are starting out in options and you're following the preschool show, it's an excellent show. Really enjoyed that today, guys. Diane and Joel, appreciate you putting that on. And you guys that are following that show, as with any trading ideas, be sure to practice it, understand it, trade it with paper money until you get comfortable with it. Don't just start diving in, watching other people when they post their ideas in the room, and just start going out there and duplicating their purchases. That's not a good way of understanding something. And especially, it'll be bad as if you have success the first time out, because then you'll think that it's always supposed to be that way, right? So give yourself some time. I know myself, over the years, I've heard if you're learning a new technique, 3 to 4 months should be a good amount of time to invest before you start trading with live money. So if there's not any other comments about this site, Investopedia, I'll move on to another site. Again, if you guys want to contact me on Skype, you can do that. In the members forum, if you want to send me a private message, that would be fine. And hopefully the audio is still working okay. I don't have any issues there. Alright, so let's go to another site that this same member gave as a suggestion, and I'm going to post that in the room as well, so you have it. And this site is called Earnings Whispers, and they have a free service that you can sign up for. I'm just making a note of the sites so that I can update the video later. So on this page, they've got some standard information for news that you see is posted here. And take a look. Here's a couple links now. They've got it highlighted on the premium services, so of course if you find the site to be useful, you can take a look at some of the premium services that are there. And I see Kumar making some comments in the room there, giving away the trade secrets, huh? Well, I have to say, I don't know if you posted that as a suggestion, but I actually had another member mention this, and I've had it as a email updates I get from these guys from time to time. So I find it to be a pretty good site. You also have free services. I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice the list of free services that are there. Market overview, earnings calendar, earnings news. So of course, if you're a premium member of Day Trading Radio, we get that nice email from Johnny Rockstar that gives us the updates on the earnings for the next day. It gives us the posting of what's coming out before the open and after the close. So that's helpful. But if you're looking for something in particular that's maybe a few days out and you can't find it on the forum site, you can use this service here. So for example, here's the earnings calendar. Let's go into there. And the way this is set up, again, you've got to be sensitive to advertisements and not, I mean, feel free to click on an ad. That's what they're there to make money. I don't want to tell you not to click on ads. But you see here's a little logo for ad choices. So that's already an alert to me that in this section is an advertisement. It happens to be text, but it could be graphical as well. These are banners, right? Now down in this section here, you'll see 3 boxes: before the open, during market hours, and after the close. So this is, don't think this is a complete list. It's, you got to choose between these 3. And up here is where we're at on the calendar. Scheduled earnings releases for Tuesday, September 11th, 2012. So in that case, after the close, at this point is all we would care about. And it looks like there were 3 companies today FEIM, Frequency Electronics, Globecom Systems, and Lentua International. Now, actually, I thought there was a few others that had come out today, so I'm not sure why this is not a complete list. But there's 3 there. And if we want to see what's coming out tomorrow, we come down to the calendar, we'll click the 12th. It defaults back to before the open. And here are some for tomorrow before the open. So I'm not going to read them all off to you. You guys get the idea. The other thing you'll notice is they've got little notes here. So the check mark that's to the left of some of these companies indicates that Earning Whispers has confirmed the release date with the company. So they actually start populating these dates weeks in advance. And some of the companies, they post dates for the announcements to come out, but then it gets changed later. Maybe they're still bringing data in from different sources and they have to put it off for another day, or maybe they want to bump it up a day, a storm's coming, whatever the story is. But as a service to customers here, Earnings Whispers is actually confirming some of this information with the companies, and so they put a check mark next to the ones that do that. They've got info on the conference calls here, and because I'm in the Eastern time zone, the clocks here are sorted by, or at least referenced in the Eastern time frame. And here you've got the estimates. So let's take a company tomorrow that's coming out, and we'll click into it and see what other information we get from this. Let's try National Technical Systems. We'll go into that. And again, here's your little advertisement. Okay. And above it we have reference to National Technical. There's their closing price and the price difference for the day and percentage-wise, and an arrow indicating that they're up on the day. And down here, this box here is actually one of the interesting features of the site, and it also is related to the emails that you will get from Earnings Whispers if you do sign up with them. And that is, they ask you how you feel about the company stock. How would you rate the stock? A buy, a hold, sell? Do you expect them to meet earnings, beat, meet, or miss? Now, why is that here? Aren't there paid experts to know these things? And shouldn't they be the ones that provide those answers? Well, I think the more experienced traders on the site know, and even those that are listening out there, maybe not members, but we would like you to be members at some time in the future. But I'm sure many of you agree that there are these experts who just sometimes have a skewed view on a company. And maybe they just have some kind of relationship that they haven't fully divested. In a legal sense, they're allowed to do that. And so there they go, upgrading a stock after it's already made its move, or downgrading it after everybody and their brother have already put all their money into the stock because of the previous upgrade. And it's left, right, and center, right? Well, in many cases, the price of the stock is not necessarily the value of the stock, but instead a reaction to the market and how everyone is feeling towards that particular company. You could take a look at Facebook today and you'll see how that's the case. The fact that Zuckerberg was about to give some comments, and it had been a while since he last gave comments. Suddenly the stock is moving up all day long, and then he does give comments, and because he doesn't say the word bankruptcy, or he doesn't say the word Facebook phone, everyone gets excited and the stock moves another 60-70 cents after market. So this is just another tool for that. And you can, if you happen to follow National Technical Systems and you want to plug in some or fill out the survey here, then for others that will come back in here, they're going to see, in this case, you notice it says consensus estimate, and that's where you get some of that information populated from. consensus estimate. Apparently National Technical doesn't have enough responses for them to populate that here. And then the other feature is if you were a paid subscriber, I don't think this is available on the free service, and that is this Earnings Whisper. So based upon not just the response from folks, but a bunch of other pieces of information that they pull together for the site, they then give you an Earnings Whisper value. And depending on the stock, maybe that's of value to you to figure out whether a company is going to be moving up or down after earnings. Of course, you always have the option to be in the position of cash when earnings come out and not hold through earnings. So there's a couple of things about this site that you might find of interest. I'm taking a look at some other boxes that are here. Pivot points are listed, and yet they're not populated. So let's see if we plug in another equity here. I'm looking around for a little search box, which I don't see off the top of my head. Let's plug in market overview. Let's see, we can pick a sector. And yeah, let's pick JCPenney. Let's see what kind of data we get from that. Alright, that's not a clickable link. So let's look at our portfolio. And free trial for the portfolio. I must have wandered into the premium services at some point. Alright, so this is getting into some other things, and I'm not logged into this site. So unless you guys in the room have any other questions about this site, or you'd like me to look into it further, I can do that. But we can also go into some other sites. I see that you guys are posting some comments there. So I got a question for Kumar. Now he's given a recommendation in the room to Briefing.com. Now I know Briefing has a paid service. So Kumar, can you let us know if there are some free sources of information on this site that you find useful, or are you a paid subscriber of the site? This is Briefing.com, and he says he uses the free service. So maybe you could walk us through what in here are the free clicks, and do you have to be logged in? We're taking a look at Briefing.com. He says you do have to be logged in. Let's see, please log in right over here. Please log in or register. Alright, let's try that. We're going to log in, and oh, this must have my old address. Nope, probably not. I hate logging into sites with Facebook. That's just me. Let's just take a second here. Bring you back to ES here while I try to see if another username is registered here somewhere. Nope. Alright, so I'm going to register with them real quick. And I got a nice little thank you for registering. So let's just bring that back into the page. Alright, hope that comes out okay. And you got the lovely banner ads at the top. So we'll just move down from there. And Kumar, alright, back to you. So you say you just use the calendars. Alright, so I guess we're talking about the earnings then, right? So here we are actually on the calendars. Here's some information here. Stock splits, upgrades and downgrades, IPO, earnings, conference calls, earnings guidance. So here's the 11th. And is there a way to go to the 12th, Kumar? If I hit the plus sign, it looks like it wants to just expand, give me more info. All right, Kumar. We're going to play 20 questions. How do I go to the next date? Go back to earnings. Okay. So we're going to earnings. And here we have the dates. Okay. So let's do this week. And we've got the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th. So now here already we can see a difference with Earnings Whispers, because in their calendar for the 12th, they've got all these companies listed, and Briefing has 2. So I don't know if those are companies that have paid Briefing a little fee or something, but let's try this full listing option. And it's a full listing of 2 companies tomorrow. So I'm not sure why that's happened. There's PMFG, and if we go to after the close, PLL, among others. So back to Briefing. Let's see, we've got some footnotes we could take a look at. It says upcoming earnings release dates and forecasts, as well as an archive of past releases. Okay. And consensus EPS and revenue estimates provided by Capital IQ, a Standard & Poor's business, yada yada yada. So another resource for sure, but I have to ask why we don't have a full list here, just those 2 companies and not additional ones such as are brought over here. In fact, I'm always fascinated that companies would dare have earnings during market hours. So let's look at the 13th. This is Thursday, October 13th, when we have the Ultimate Trader Showdown. And you can see some of the earnings that are going to come out before the market. Looks like a China Green Agriculture is coming out. Pier 1 Imports coming out Monday before the open. And 2 companies during the day. Another Chinese company, China Botanic Pharmaceutical, and Argan Inc. Releasing during market open. And then here you have several after the close. Another Chinese company. Interesting. This is Thursday we're talking about. So back to Briefing.com. We're taking a look at this page here of the earnings during the week. We moved out here to the 13th, and here again you have just 3 companies listed, 2 before the open, 1 after the close, and not all these other companies that were shown over here. So I'd have to imagine that there's something with regards to the confirmation of the earnings release. Maybe that has something to do with it. Obviously, you notice there's a much larger list on the 10th, which was yesterday, versus tomorrow. So there's that. You do have your actual versus the estimate here, so that's good to have, and your year-over-year revenue. So those are a couple of things useful here on Briefing.com. I know they have Learning Center as well. I don't have all the sections of this site figured out. If anyone else has something they want to highlight about Briefing.com, they could do that. No problem if you don't. And Kumar, actually, yeah, you did say there was another part of the site you referenced, not just the calendars, right? What else would you like to bring to our members' attention? Okay, fair enough. And I appreciate the comment there, Kumar. Obviously, right. There's a lot of these companies that were listed on the other site may not be ones that we would be looking to trade in. So, getting these more focused stocks, maybe we want to call them, they'll be the ones we'll be trading anyway. So, if you're not interested in Chinese pharmaceutical companies, then it doesn't help you, right? Okay. So here's a site we just got suggested in the room here by Gas, and that is the NASDAQ Trader site. Now, besides this particular page that we're being brought to, this is actually a really good site to reference, NASDAQTrader.com. Now, on this page, we're looking at current trading halts. So, if you subscribe to a service like Benzinga, for example, then you'll hear them announce the halts to trades. But if he's not bringing out every single stock that's out there, so here's a good reference. Now, Gas is mentioning this particular one. Is there anything besides the obvious that you think I should highlight, or we got the gist of it here? And is there any issues regarding stocks that maybe were halted in the past couple days that you find to be valuable for a future trade? Okay. So, for example, we've got, let's take a look at the first one here, Steel Dynamics. And you see the time it was halted. It's in military time, so that's 6:25 p.m. that it was halted. We've got a reason code here, T3. I'm going to assume that that's a footnote somewhere. So if we come down here, I don't see one. So, Gas, do you know what a T3 reason code is? Here's the codes over here. And let's see, T3, here we go. Halt resumption times. The news has been fully disseminated. Alright, so it sounds like it starts with the T1 and then later changes to a T3 once it's been resolved. So here's the resumption time, resumption quote time, resumption trade time. So you've got a gap of about 30 minutes, it looks like, for this to resume trading. And so this could be useful if you want to keep this as a reference. Very possible that there's a subscription service here to get emails. Here's an RSS feed. So right there is a nice feature if you're using an RSS reader, and that would be something maybe for another show, because I don't have any in mind other than Google's RSS feeder, which I've used from time to time. I don't really have it set up all the time now. But whatever the case, you can set up your feeder, and then this site will get updated as soon as something gets posted. You'll get a notification. And even if you have it on your phone or your tablet and you're out and about, then you'll get notified about it. Not sure what you can do if it's a stock that you're in, but if you're looking to trade around some news, this is another resource that you can use. Okay. and yeah, if you're holding it and they just announced that the CEO has squandered all the money, then yeah, that's what you would do. In fact, I'll tell you what, there is actually a company that this happened with just a few hours ago, and I will find the article first. Pardon me. And share it with you. And I'll paste that in the room for you. So this is from Zero Hedge, And the article, and I love this, they've like squeezed so much info on this page. But the heading is, the firm that brought you Hollow 2-pack dies less than a year after IPOing, taking millions in taxpayer subsidies with it. Now, I wanted to point this out for a couple of reasons. One is the fact that if you follow Zero Hedge on Twitter, for example, then you would have been notified that once this got posted just a couple hours ago. So that's a useful tool for using Twitter with your trading. I don't recommend you go crazy with following 1,000 different people, because then you really won't get a useful source of news off of the feed. Instead, you'll just have your Twitter updating every couple of moments with another piece of news. So that's something for a future time that we'll talk about in regards to Twitter. But in this case here, I was able to see this pretty much right after they posted it. But here's one of the things I noticed. Now, what they're pointing out is that this company right here, Digital Domain Media, apparently filed for bankruptcy today. And this was the company that created the special effects for the three-dimensional Tupac Shakur concert that you might have heard about earlier this year. And then what they mentioned down here is about them destroying $400 million in market cap in under 10 months. And the fact that what is known by very few is that this is yet another public equity disaster of this administration. And then they quote something out of the affidavit. Now, I'm just going to give you this as a lesson in reading between the lines. And I'm not picking sides here. I don't have a dog in this race, as they say, in regards to comments for or against the administration. But just on the surface, I was noticing the way this was written. So this is quoting from the bankruptcy affidavit, and this is in the bold here. It says, the company has worked closely with state and local government authorities in Florida to execute economic stimulus contracts designed to create jobs and stimulate Florida's economy. As of the petition date, the company had contracted to receive a total of approximately $135 million in such government stimulus financing, including $19.9 million in tax credits. And then right below this, they make a comment about the fact that this company received all of this money and now it's gone bankrupt, not only on personal financing from the IPO, but also from public money. But the thing you got to read between the lines is the fact that just because they contracted to receive that money, now I haven't dug deeper on this, but I'm just mentioning this on the surface, that just because they have contracted to receive that money doesn't mean they actually received that money and wasted that money. Maybe they did. I don't know. But that's that. Okay, but again, another site that you can get news from. And by the way, I thought this actually was another interesting article that came through on the Twitter feed, and that was regarding Zuckerberg's interview. And what these guys did was they took the transcript of the interview and made this nice little word cloud based upon how many times he used certain words in the interview. Now, if it was a speech, then maybe that would have some value to it. The fact that it was an interview, I didn't hear the interview, but the fact that it was an interview, there's only certain ways you can steer the conversation. But obviously he mentioned mobile the most times. That's why it's there in the larger part of the word cloud. Money, search, stock, etc. And from what I've read so far, the concept of Facebook doing something a little differently with their searching might be something of value to the business in the future. But anyway, that's just kind of a miscellaneous candy reference here on the site. So, getting back to the trade or NASDAQ Trader site, That's what we had here. And let's see, since I went into that, I lost the page that Gas originally shared. So there's the original page. And as we mentioned, it's an RSS feed, so you can get it from there. Okay. So, why don't we take a look at, since we have Gas's attention here, we appreciate it, and he's given up some more sites here, and I'll excuse the fact that he didn't fill out the survey, but that's okay. You don't have to. Just kidding. Alright, so here's one that I know some other members have given, and you see that in the member room there from Gas. I'm going to paste the main website reference in case you want to go to the home page, but that is forexpros.com, and what Gas is drawing attention to is the futures section here, and this is actually very nice to have because there are many sites that will let you look up an equity, Google Finance for example, but they give you a hard time when you try to look up futures, and then you're trying to figure out, am I supposed to put a dollar sign in there? Am I supposed to put an underscore? Is it the full letter reference to the contract, etc., etc.? So here's Forex Pros, which is kind of built around the futures market, and here it's giving you some nice info here. So Gas, I know you mentioned here it's real-time oil futures, you said. So that's nice to have. And again, we mentioned this on another episode. Having these sites on your phone is actually very useful. So if you can save this link, and Gas gave us the link right to the oil page, but obviously you can take a look at any of the other pages that are in here, and you bookmark these on your phone, and then you can take a look at it while you're out and about. And if you've got a mobile trading application, and most of our brokers have a mobile trading version, then you could feel free to trade in the doctor's office, right? Or if you're taking a train somewhere, or whatever you're doing. Even if it's a matter of closing out a position. I mean, that's one of the reasons I started getting the internet on my phone. It wasn't so much that I wanted to be able to trade away from my desk with all my tools and my notes and everything, but if I happen to be in a swing trade and I'm out and about, I could stay in tune with the market and be able to close out a position at the right time. So it's kind of a valuable thing. And no Gas, there's no pre-show homework, just trying to create an ongoing relationship with our listeners here at daytradingradio.com, and encouraging use of our member forum, where we've posted some past episodes as well as a request for suggestions on websites that we like. But that's all good. We appreciate getting it live here while we're going over it. Alright, so that's crude futures. And since you're here, Gas, is there another part of this site that you find good? I see we have this little section here, live quotes. You've got commodities, and they've got it listed here: metals, softs, meats, energy, and grains. So we were talking earlier about corn. So here you can go in and take a look at US corn. Click on that, and boom, you've got a live chart for corn. And if you're new to trading futures, then you may have noticed that the corn here says December, but the oil said October. So each futures contract is set to roll over to the next contract at different intervals. So you won't always see October for that particular future item, but it's different for each one. And there is a time when, and I don't know, I'm not stating this for a fact, but let's, as an example, say the November contract here for oil. That November contract, I don't know if that's out yet, but when it comes to oil, I have a feeling they do have them open from now till next year. Probably December 2013 is in there, and 14, but you probably won't find October of 2020, let's say. So the contracts, they come out from time to time, and then when a certain date comes, they become the standard to trade that contract at this time. Does that mean you can't trade the September contract? Again, off the top of my head, and maybe you guys can tell me, I would stand to believe that you could trade the September contract if you want, but because it's about to expire, you run the risk of having a few thousand gallons of oil delivered to your front lawn, right? As you take possession of all that oil. So the market is looking at October. And you'll notice this on the daytradingradio.com site that Johnny has the ES on the screen, and right now it's I believe it's the December contract that we're looking at, and mine doesn't have the shadow on it, but I'm pretty sure it's the Z contract, the December contract. So that doesn't mean you can't go out there and start trading the January contract if you wanted to, but of course the price is affected by the volume and the market, and everybody that is trading it at the same time. So you don't want to be the only guy out there trading, right? Okay. So forexpros.com, definitely a good site to have, and plenty of other resources here. Just scanning the bar on the menu there, looks like some technical sections here. Here's some tools, pivot points, indicators. I believe they have some charting in here too. Here's some national futures. There's the Nikkei 225, which is closed right now. But and you can click on commodities here, so you get gold, which is trading just about round the clock. Silver, copper. So if your platform doesn't have a way for you to look at futures, and some people don't have that set up, this is a way you can do it. Maybe you're not trading gold, but that doesn't mean you can't trade the gold ETF, right? GC or GLD. And same with silver. You have SLV, copper. Walked into a quiz for myself. I don't remember what the copper ETF is, but that's what you can use these sources for. See what the real thing is, and then make your adjustment for the ETF, because every ETF is on a different standard, not necessarily 1-to-1 or 1-to-100, but they have a different standard that you should know about if you're going to trade the ETFs. All right, so we're coming up on the 9 o'clock hour, and I see a couple more comments in the room. I'm not exactly sure if they're directed at me, but what I will do is bring up some tunes. I'm going to take a little break, and when I come back, we're going to take a look at one other website that you guys are probably familiar with, which is Finviz, and we're going to take a look at the screener in Finviz. And Gas, I see that other site you had. I think we had that referenced on another episode. I'm not sure, but I'll be happy to bring that out just on the other side. And we'll see how we can use the screener in Finviz to populate a watch list in our broker platform. In this case, we're going to take a look at ThinkOrSwim. And that's it. So again, if you have any other questions, then feel free to send me a private message so that I don't miss it. You can, of course, post it in the main room. I just don't want you to feel like I'm ignoring you if I happen to miss the comment. And Alright, we are back live with daytradingradio.com. Hope I don't make too much noise with my headphones. And just do a little mic check in the room here. Ask you guys to confirm that we're back live here. Taking a look at the ES, doing a nice little S curve there. A little volume coming in and a little trading going on. So again, just doing an audio check here before I go on. I'll be able to edit this out of the show once it goes into the member forum room, but I want to make sure that I'm not just rambling to myself. Anyone out there? And you know what I figured out? I can just listen to myself. And I see that that is there. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Sue and Ratfink. Okay. So, possible reason of not getting a lot of feedback is because we do have some members that are in some other rooms here on Day Trading Radio, and we'd like to make mention of that. So let's do a little plug for the show. So first of all, on daytradingradio.com, if you guys happen to be watching this through live stream, for example, perhaps you are able to view it there on a free membership, and that's great, and we appreciate the attention the site gets. And any feedback you guys have, you are welcome to send it to us at dtrs@daytradingradio.com. And any questions or comments about the show, feedback, and any reasons for your trading you'd like to share with us, we'd like to hear about it. So besides that, every day we have, aside from the video running that Johnny has his commentary on, and that is our member-based chat room. Now it starts off when you log into the chat room that you're in our main room with everyone, and there is a little commentary as an introduction to the room, and in there is a reference to our futures room. So the futures room is something that we started just earlier this year, in fact, with the attention of the traders. And as you know, if you are a member, or even if you follow the show a little bit, you'll know that we have Vancar as a trading partner for the futures, and you can get an account with them through our site. You can also make use of the futures room. So by getting into that room, you'll see other members that are trading futures. Mostly you're trading, I'd have to say, the ES, the E-minis, but there are traders in there as well for the NASDAQ futures and the Dow futures, the oil, etc., etc. In fact, as I'm talking, I'm realizing that I can actually share this out with you guys. So I'm going to stick that here and share out the members room here for a moment. I don't think this is top secret information. So here it is. And if I were to go into my list of channels, I can see some of the other sites that are here. So let's just take a little peek at the futures room. I don't know if you guys were giving any shout outs while we were doing that, but there they are. And actually, I don't have the history of the room here, but this is the future room, and you can take a look at some of the trades that are going on in this room. And there are members in there now, just as early as a few moments ago, posting some trade ideas. And there we have a member posting a test comment. So another room that has started in recent months, also on the list, is our options room. And in this room you're going to see a few of our options traders that are trading throughout the day. And this, I'll have to say, is mostly headed by Learjet. He's one of our founding fathers for the options trading. And Die Laughing is very busy in this room as well throughout the day. And I'm sorry if I'm not mentioning everybody that's in this room. I know that McCrocken has posted some trades in here, and there are many others, and my memory is just escaping me since I didn't make any notes about this. That's what I get for trying to talk on the fly, right? Mick Mill, I think he's been in there plenty of times. But I want to give a shout out to another room that has started more recently, And this is a room. Again, if you go to the list channels room, you'll see it there. And it's called the Apple Scalpers Room. The actual name is AAPL-Scalpers. So depending on what kind of chat you're using, you can visit that site in different ways. And when you go in there, what you're going to find throughout the day are folks that are scalping trades in Apple, or options trades in Apple, again scalping, and it's all about the scalpers. So if you're curious as a trader, this is actually an interesting aspect of trading, and that is you can find simply one stock, in this case Apple, and you can make your living just trading that one stock. You don't have to feel like you need to understand every single stock that's out there on the market. But if you follow along on the Apple trades and see how it behaves throughout the day, see how news affects Apple, how Apple affects news, and you can actually just trade this one stock. I know some other people that I met before I became a member of this room, and that's what they do. They just trade those. So I wanted to give a shout out to that room, and I want to mention too some of the members we have in there. Of course, McCrocken and RJ are probably a couple of the busy ones that are in that room, and we're getting a short, quick little room raid going on here with RPM, and that's perfectly fine. Just remember that this is getting made part of the video, so please please be careful what you're saying in the room there, RPM. So let me just give a shout out to a few of our members here in this room. We've got Die Laughing, of course, in this room, and Tight Stops. Great guy, Tight Stops. And in fact, he's got a video in our forums if you're interested to hear his interview. Tight Stops is a former market maker, and so you can pick up some interesting tips from him. You got Learjet, who I've seen in this room, although for the most part I've seen him just crying about his trades in this room. So I'll leave it to you guys to tell me if he's actually helping out with some of the trades. Huxu, of course, Stock Lens, hanging out in the room, and James, I believe, also, James 59, and Varicose Wayne. So anyway, if you guys want to check out the room there, Huxu, I'm pretty sure I mentioned you, but and Tomahawk. And the only thing that we ask is that when it comes to some of our more trade-specific pages, like this one here, feel free to stop in, feel free to check it out, ask some questions if you have any, but when it comes to some of the miscellaneous comments that have to do with other stocks and maybe have to do with some of the commentary, and you know, if you've been listening to Day Trading Radio, you know we're a loose group. We don't take ourselves terribly seriously, and there are times of the day the market is just dragging along, and maybe we spend a little extra time talking about Mark Zuckerberg's hoodie, for example, and that's all fun and games in the main chat room. But in this room, we want to try to keep it focused to the Apple trades. The futures room, we want to kind of try to keep it focused to the trades, the futures trades. And you know, I'm not the moderator of every room here, so you'll hear about it from the guys that are there. But if we want to encourage our members to make use of these rooms here and post their trades, their setups, so that everyone can benefit from it, then it'd be helpful if we keep it focused that way. So we appreciate McCrocken and the rest of you guys for coming up with this idea and for making it happen. So that's a useful thing. Now, while I'm in here, and since we're talking about tools and various aspects of the membership, I want to point out something with regards to our chat rooms, and that is that if you give me a second here, and I hope this audio doesn't bleed over. I'm going to try to shut it off before it gets to be too obnoxious. And what I'm referring to is our chat logs. So when you log into Day Trading Radio and you first click into the chat room, and what I'm going to do is I'll bring my window over here so you can see it. Now, unlike some other websites, this is a true chat server that's managed here at daytradingradio.com. In this case, managed by RPM, as he handles all of our server work. And so he has set up various ways to connect to it, depending on the platform that you're using, whether you're doing a phone or you're doing a tablet, different browsers, you have different things. The biggest one that we try to use is the Flash Chat, because it's the most compatible, but you can make use of any of these. But anyway, I didn't mean to get into all that. I did just want to point out here the chat logs, because I'm not sure if everyone is making use of this, but this is a really helpful tool, the chat logs. So I'm going to just show you here, and for now it's set up with the members room, the main members room, and the futures room. And I know RPM goes through a lot of work, and he's got a lot of things going on right now, getting ready for our Ultimate Trader Showdown later this week. But I know it's on his to-do list is to also add the options room here. So the idea is that, let's say you got into the market at, let's say, 9:20, and you wanted to know what information was posted in the room before you got there. Well, use this link. Go to the chat rooms. Let's say you're a futures trader. Here you can pick today, and it brings up a log. I'll show you that. It's down here below. And you'll see some folks who just, some hardcore guys were in here at 4 a.m. This is Eastern time, these timestamps. So you've got 4 a.m. You got Pat WR checking in. And then after 6 o'clock, after 6 o'clock, you got a few other guys popping in. Here is NC Dave posting a couple of Fibonacci charts, and this is what you'll see as part of your membership here at daytradingradio.com. You got members not only doing the work, but even sharing the ideas with you. And here's some links that he's given to some of the trade ideas. I'll just scroll down here quickly, and you'll see how much information just from today and just in our futures room. This is all posts from members, and you may not see, because I'm recording at 5 frames a second, this is actually scrolling by faster than that. So you guys will be able to realize, if you did this on your own, how many posts are here until you get to the end, and you got a couple of comments from some of the recent posters that were there. So that's a great little tool to have the history there, and you've got the history for the past couple days. I find this useful if I just wanted to check out the day before and see maybe some of the info that came out after market. If I didn't happen to be around after market, that's a way to do that and make use of it. And as RPM is mentioning in the room now, that he'll be adding the options room on here as well. Just have to set that up on the server. Okay. So I don't see any questions posed to me, guys. Just let me know. Give me a shout if I'm leaving something out. All right. All right. So let me just move some of my windows around here. We'll put this back over the ES for now and close out of here. So let's take a look at this other site. Okay. Oh, and I also wanted to make reference to another site actually before I do this one, and it was mentioned also by Gas, and I don't have my list in front of me of sites that I brought up before, and actually now that I see this one, Gas, I know for a fact I did not reference this one yet, but it was on my list to do. So let me just organize my pages here, and we'll bring that up on the screen. And this is a site called the Pattern Site. Now, Gas, I don't know if you're still around, but I know that you or one of the other members had shared this out before, and I bookmarked it early on. At least I thought I did. Let me drop the index reference here. Oh, look at that. I don't have it bookmarked. Well, I will get that bookmarked. So if Gas or anyone else who's used this site would like to make some comments about it while I save the bookmark here. No? All right. Well, we could take a look and see what we have. So we've got a few pieces of research here in the middle. I think this is really the main focus here. And you've got some patterns that are set up, busted patterns. And why don't we take a look at this one ugly pattern, see what that's about. So here we've got Bulkowski's ugly chart patterns. Move this over here. Again, try to filter out the advertisement information. And looking at as of 9/11. And I see we have a link here. This page is the main gateway for ugly chart patterns. An ugly chart pattern is one that differs significantly from the normal appearance of the chart pattern. Okay, so I only have one pattern completed so far. So we go in there. And this is, he's got it labeled as an ugly double bottom. And I'm starting to get the sense that this is a learning site. Unless someone else is going to jump in and tell me otherwise, it looks like it's a good site to understand some patterns in trading. Now, we had talked about the chart school earlier. Whatever source you use, in fact, the NASDAQ has some good resources too for patterns. The point is that learning how to read candlesticks and learning how to read patterns will help you significantly with your trading. You can, if you're a member of daytradingradio.com, you're going to see Johnny point out patterns many times. But if he's looking at the ES all the time and you are in a different stock, it's useful that you understand how patterns work so that you can pick up on them as they're getting created. So here he's talking about double bottom, and I see a reference to the think of an ugly double bottom as a double bottom in which the second bottom is significantly higher than the first. Ugly double bottoms can help you time the entry when bottom fishing. So there's the reference to a chart where you've got a breakout basically with this candle. Now they're not using candlesticks, he's using the bars. And so this, if I'm reading this right, looks like a type of a gravestone pattern almost. And this after that breakout there with the gravestone, and the bulls pushed it back up and the trade continued up, it still pulled itself down. I can see a pattern here where if you look at this part of the shoulder and this part here, it's a lower high. So the bears must have taken over, brought it back down, but they didn't bring it down enough. And so the trend continues back up again. And he's given some statistics here. So without knowing a lot about this particular site, I do have it bookmarked, and it looks like it's a good resource to understand different patterns. And here's even reference to candle patterns again. And I can tell from the dates of these here that it's a little dated. But still looks like a good resource. So if you're trying to understand chart patterns, then the patternsite.com might be something that will help you out. So take a look at it. And I'm going to take a look briefly at another site here from our members. And we'll paste that in the room. and it's a site called, if I can pronounce it right, Avasaram, which means opportunity in Sanskrit. So this is a site with some information about options trading, and you can look on the left here, in fact, and see a whole list of options strategies. So for example, today in our preschool class, somehow I heard the phrase covered call mentioned. Don't know how that slipped in, but here's a reference to covered calls, and this is a scanner, so that's pretty interesting. It gives you a complete list here of stocks. You've got the equity name here, number of shares, the option name, when the option expires, in this case January 14, 2014. So these are what we would call leap options because they're far away from the present time. And the open bids, etc., etc. So I don't know if Tomahawk, you're the one that brought this site here. Is there anything in particular you'd like me to highlight about this site? We appreciate the members sharing these sites here, and I'll tell you, this is the kind of thing that is worth bookmarking and worth checking out later. I actually have a folder that I put all of my uncategorized links, and I try to go through that every now and then. In fact, it's kind of why I've been bringing them up on the show, because I go through it and use it as a way to clear them out. All right, Tommy, no problem. Thanks for that. Maybe we'll revisit this in the future because it looks like a good one. So we got about 30 minutes left in the show, and I didn't want to spend all this time just on websites, so I apologize if anyone feels like this was false advertising. But I'm happy to let the show go where you guys go, and we're happy to bring out some of these websites and add them to your arsenal. We'll be happy to bring out more in the future. So here's a site that you might have seen mentioned before by Johnny and maybe by other traders in the room, and that's Finviz. And it's a really good site for visualizing things in the financial market. I was first introduced to this site about a year or so ago, and I was shown something in regards to the screener on here, so that's kind of what I'm going to highlight. But you should know that this site has a lot of useful information. Really good stuff in here. So I'll give you, for example, a one off here on the front page, and that is, if you just click on that image, and that is this heat map. Now I have ThinkOrSwim, and I know there's a heat map in ThinkOrSwim, very useful, and maybe you guys have seen it in some of your other tools. So here is the heat map here just on the website. So if you haven't seen one before, I'll break it down for you. Basically, you're looking at different sections of the market. So here's, for example, technology sector is over here. Okay, you'll notice Apple, Microsoft, Google. Down here is the financial sector. Okay, so you'll see here's Bank of America, JP Morgan, Citigroup. Then on this top section you'll have the services sector. Alright, so there's Walmart, Target, Visa. Here's the basic materials sector, ExxonMobil, I believe that's Chevron, and I'll stick with Schlumberger because I can't remember what COP is, just drawing a blank, and I can't see the logo from here. Here's consumer goods, so Procter & Gamble, and I believe that's Kimberly-Clark. Here's industrial goods, so like Caterpillar and Deere. Here's healthcare, utilities, and conglomerates. Okay, so that's how these larger sections are broken down. But then you'll notice within each of these sectors is the yellow bars, and they are representing subsectors. So for example, if I go into technology, I'll click on that, and it just nicely zoomed into it here. I'll see if I can move that over. So here within technology, you've got your application software, diversified computer systems, telecom services D, semiconductor B, networking C, etc., etc. So each time I click on this, it's zooming in further and further. I got to figure out, I haven't really used this to, there we go. Okay. So actually I just figured out the wheel on your mouse will zoom in and out as well. So now what is this for? Well, the heat map works like this. If you've got a stock in a sector, so let's take this financial sector for example, and I'll move this over. The one that has the most volume and the highest activity and the largest price change is going to be the brightest of the colors. So for example, Bank of America, amongst its fellow financial trades, had the greatest move, and so it shows itself at 5.24% versus JP Morgan at 2.17 and Citigroup at 2.61, a little bit more than JP. And so these squares and rectangles get drawn, and in fact if you notice they're in a certain kind of a Fibonacci ratio, but they get drawn here in the heat map in darker green if they're the largest movers in a up direction, and dark red if they're the largest movers in a downward direction. And the ones that have less than those extremes, I'm not going to say just a small move, but the point is, for example, here's BK and PNC, and they're only a couple decimal point moves, so they are not in a dark green or a dark red. But in some cases you can have a whole sector that doesn't move like that. So for example here under property and casualty you have the Berkshire Hathaway B shares. It's the biggest square, so it had the largest volume of this sector even though it's the smallest move, versus Travelers. So here if you're looking at this heat map and you notice Travelers starting to turn bright green, it's as if you had that chart on your screen and that chart happened to be moving up all of a sudden. So it just is something to catch your eye. Thanks for the feedback, guys. Appreciate it. So the heat map there is useful. If you're, let's say you're trading Apple and you want to know what some of the other related sectors are, and to be honest with you, they sure don't have a whole lot in this group here, and sorry about jumping around like that. Here's Apple and Dell. Now, why they're under personal computers, I think it's time for Apple to get recategorized, don't you think? Because it's a little silly to have them grouped over here when they're involved in so much. But the other thing you're seeing is that out of all the sectors, today the technology sector had the most attention. So that's why it's the largest square within this overall rectangle, versus the conglomerates like GE and MMM. Trying to remember the company name, 3M, of course. So that's what the heat map is for, and the trading day is not going on, so you're not seeing this move around, but if the trading was live, then you would get to see these things updating live. Also, while I'm moving around, on the right here, you'll notice that it's actually populating the details about the company. So that's useful, and you've got a little ticker symbol there that you can do a search. And I didn't mean to get into every last nookie about the heat map, but you can of course click on the other markets and see what's going on. In fact, you can even click on ETFs and find out what ETFs are hot right now. In fact, this looks like a good resource if you're trying to figure out the names of some international ETFs. You want to trade something for China, Japan. Again, I move over, I can see what's being referenced over here. FXI, which says it's the iShares FTSE for China. EWY, South Korea. EWT, Taiwan. EWZ, Brazil, etc., etc. After the earthquake in Japan the EWJ got a lot of attention. I did some trades on that, for example. And yes, the Nookie is for short for Nook and Cranny. That's how they came out. It's really a bad word choice, wasn't it? Anyway, all right. So that's the heat map, and I'm just going to go right into the screener, show you guys this little tool, and at the risk of losing some info on the resolution, I'm just going to expand this a little bit. I encourage you guys to simply go to the page on your own computer if you have another window, and you can take a look at it while this is going on. I'll post it there in the room for you, make it a little easier. And Kumar's telling me that there's a 3D version of that map. I think I have seen that once before. Why don't we click on that and see what it looks like? Oh yeah, look at that. There's some good stuff. So here you have, looks like the boxes are taking up a little less space on the page, and instead of showing you different size squares and rectangles, they're giving a three-dimensional representation of the largest volume movers. So again, you see Travelers there on the far left under financial. I guess I must be zoomed into the financial section here, and that's why that's showing up, but whatever section you're looking at, it's just another way of looking at the data. And you know, if you want to make money, you don't want to be trading the one that's not moving. Like everything here is flat, you know, unless it has an average true range that's pretty high and it's moving around all day long. It just ended up flat, I don't know. But the ones that are moving quite a bit are the ones you want to be paying attention to, right? So it's just another way to get your attention to them. And you notice as I'm moving over it, it's actually bringing up little mini charts. So that's kind of a nice little tool. Alright, so let's move back over to the screener. So here's the screener, and right now it's a list of basically all the stocks, because you'll see it starts with the A's. It's showing page 1 of 341. So a lot of stocks are here. Let me just move this out a little bit more for you guys. And what you'll notice in the center, calling it the center, but maybe fourth of the way down from the top of the window, is some tabs. So I have descriptive, fundamental, technical, and all. This is relating to the filters, which are in this section here. So I'm going to give you an example of how to create a simple watch list of active stocks if you guys are looking to trade active stocks and you want to have a good starter list of trades. And good night, Vester. Appreciate you checking in, and hope everyone else is doing well out there. So, for example, let's take a look at volume. Okay, that's here on the descriptive tab. So, and this is not a hard fast rule. I'm just going to give you a few basics to create a watch list, but you guys can modify this however way you want. So let's say we want to look at stocks that have an average daily trading volume, let's say over 200,000. Okay, so that'll cut out the riffraff, so to speak. And then we want to look at price. Okay, we want stocks that are value more than just penny stocks, for example. And you can actually go by stocks that are under a price, over a price, or between a price. So we're going to do over 10. Okay? Just look at stocks that are over 10. Now, I should have been pointing out to you, if you just notice going from, let me go back to any. And go back to any. So here's 341 pages worth of stocks. Over here on the left, it tells you there's 6,817 stocks on this list. So we're going to change the first one we said to over 200,000. We just went from over 6,000 to 2,600 stocks. And now we're going to go to over $10. All right, that cut out about 600 stocks. We're down to 2,000. That's still a pretty hefty watch list. And let's go over here to fundamental. Oh, maybe it's not fundamental, technical, I think. Yeah. So here's average true range. Now, if you're going to be a day trader, then you don't want something that's average true range is a quarter, because it's not moving anywhere. Then it's going to be really hard to scalp that during the day. So you want to have a stock with an average true range. Now we're going to look at, we went from 2019. If we pick over 2.5, look at that. We went right down to 43. So let's pick over 2, and that gives us 84. You know what? For purposes of this demo, let's do 2.5, and that'll give us 43. So now we have 3 pages of stocks, and if I just look down the list of names, these are some quality stocks to trade. Apple, Amazon, you see Chipotle Mexican Grill, Salesforce.com, F5 Networks, Fossil. All right, a good starter list to work with. Okay. Now, what we're going to do with this now is we're going to export this into a file. So we're not going to use this in the middle where it says save as portfolio, but instead we're going to go to the lower right corner, and here's a button that says export. So we'll click on that, and it should give me a pop-up asking me where to save it. So let's just give it a moment to do that, and I may have to, there we go. So let me just move this off the screen for a moment while I figure out a good place to stick this. Let's go to this subfolder right here. Okay. So I'm saving that as a CSV file. So that's a delimited file for purposes of bringing it into our watch list, and even at most spreadsheet programs will be able to view that. But you're looking at it like a spreadsheet here. So that's pretty useful. Now, there's a lot of other things about Finviz that I love, and just for example, I'll click on Baidu, and right here is one of the things I really love about it, and that is it automatically is drawing in trend lines. So in this case, it's identifying a downward trend line channel, and it's throwing some moving averages in there. So 50, 220, and you got all these details below. Here's all of the analysts' comments when it's been reiterated as overweight, initiated as overweight, etc., etc. News on the stock. So very, very thorough website with information, and you can then take some of this if you want and create little links to it and share it out in the room if you want to draw people's attention to the things you're looking at. Anyway, so let's bring up ThinkOrSwim, and I'm going to show you how we can take that export we just did and turn that into a new watch list for our purposes. Oh, let me just grab the wrong thing. Let's try grabbing that. Okay. So here's ThinkOrSwim, and at the top of the watch list section here, you've got this little gear icon. So I'm going to click the gear, and it's going to bring up all of my personal watch lists to choose from versus the public watch lists. They're all in here. And then somewhere down here, a few entries from the bottom, is the import option. So we pick that, import, and hopefully the lighting shows up. The contrast is good on your side. But it's asking me where to bring it from. So we've got file, name, and here's a little ... after it. So I'm going to pick on that, and it takes me right into my my computer. So I'm going to browse to the folder where I save this under videos, episode 3, and there it is, Finviz CSV, and I'm going to say open, and I'm going to choose here replace current symbol. So this is going to be a brand new list. I'm going to say OK, And there she is. And I got an error message about not able to add certain symbols. And that's because when you use this export option, it sometimes grabs some of the name headings to the watch list. And okay, actually I'm looking now and I'm seeing it didn't actually import this. Wow. You know, when I tested this out, it came in no problem. Let's try that again. Alright, doesn't like that either. Alright, let's try another way then. Let's try a new, create new watch list. Maybe that's how I did it last time. Create new watch list. Here we can give it a name. So we're going to say Tools of the Trade 3. And at the bottom we've got an option to import. We'll browse to the file again. Open. And this will be add or replace, isn't going to matter. Alright, that's what I did last time. And here you can see where the export isn't exactly perfect because it exported some column headings that aren't exactly stock names. So you can just simply, I'm using the arrow key to move down, 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 the delete key to wipe out those entries from the list, and there, we're done. Don't worry about your blank lines because they won't carry over. And there she is. So here's Tools of the Trade, the name I gave it, and here's the column for symbols. And this is the default watch list. Actually, another useful tool for our members is to go into the member forum, and you'll see that some of the other members have posted some custom coding that you can use for some of these columns and give it additional references in here. I just saw Learjet and someone mentioning it earlier today, so you can take a look at that. But there you have it. So here's a custom watch list now, and you're good to go. Now I'll show you how you can use this with charting. I'm going to bring up a, let's see, that's our ES chart, and I don't want to mess that one up. So let's go back to the main program, and I'm going to take my charts and I'm going to pop this window out, and let's expand it there, and then I'm just going to shrink it down a little bit. Hopefully the resolution will be such that you guys can see this clear enough. Alright, you know what I'm going to do? Bear with me, I'm going to move this to a different monitor. And maybe it'll be a little easier for you to read it. Okay. So there is one stock that I had on the watch list. And I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm just going to hover this on the left. I'm going to pin it so it stays on top of the chart while we're talking about it. So if you guys aren't already using it, when it comes to using watch lists, you have a link in most programs between your watch lists and your charts. So here you'll see a little red 1 on this watch list, and on the chart you'll see reference to a little red 1. And here we had the chart come up for Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, and that must have been one that I clicked on while I was moving the windows around. And here she is, Regeneron. So there's the chart for it. Okay. Now what you can do with the chart, with the watch list, is using your arrows, you can move down the list, and the chart will now update per the watch list. So what's this good for? Well, if you have a screening program, whether it's Finviz or you use the Eye in the Sky screener, or you use the built-in screener that comes with ThinkOrSwim, and you create a watch list, you can then take a look at your chart, have your studies there, and go through them one at a time and see if any of them are worth trading. Now, how else is this useful? Well, we only looked at a few of the options for the Finviz site, but you can actually filter this according to certain activities with regards to the studies. So, for example, if there's some kind of a rising wedge pattern, if there's a wedge down pattern, in fact, here I'll bring this back over so you can see what I'm talking about. Here's the technical section here for patterns, and you can filter this: double bottoms, double tops, head and shoulders. So you can see the power of using this this software. And that brings up another point. For many traders that are just starting out, there's a lot of pressure that comes from family and friends. If they hear that you're trading, they make this assumption that you're just throwing a dart at the wall. But if you've been trading for any amount of time, you realize how much work is involved in trading. So when you can make use of a tool like this and filter out your stocks, maybe in this case you will drop the average volume and make it 100K. Take the price and drop it down to being over $5. Come back to technical, make the true range $2. And now, and it's showing me 95 stocks, and now we go to our pattern and we say we want to, let's see, we're in a, do we consider ourselves in a bull market lately? It's kind of hard to say with the news coming out this week, but let's say it's a bull market, so we want to see some double bottoms. Well, we have one double bottom, and there it is. Interesting. So here's one double bottom, and it's kind of already made its move after that, so I'm not sure that this particular pattern will help you to find something. Let's look at double top. There's ICE. We had that in a room earlier this a couple of days ago, I think. But there's a long-term double top up there. So drawing your attention, here's a rising wedge, a rising wedge if you look at the double top. So at any rate, other ways that you can filter out the stocks and create watch lists. So this is just one way to do that. All right. So next week, unless we line up a different platform, I'm going to go a little bit more into ThinkOrSwim, and I'll show you, for example, how you can set up multiple time frames using the linkages so that you have, for example, in this case for Apple, I've got the daily, hourly, 15-minute, 5, 3, and 1 minute all on the screen at the same time. And we can take a look at how to do that. I'll turn off some of these other information and use the watch list so that you can look at the multiple time frames and see if there's anything setting up. All right, but before we sign off, as we're coming up on the 10 o'clock hour and I see folks nodding off, I just wanted to point out something in regards to trading, and particularly in regards to using ThinkOrSwim for options and for figuring out the price levels of options, because I think that was something that came up today. And if you have ThinkOrSwim And actually, you know, it might be something in any of your platforms that you can use this to do. And I'm just going to show you briefly. So, for example, let's take a look at Facebook. That was the one I wanted to look at. So here's Facebook, and we had some members in the room talk about, hey, Stock Bandit, thanks. In fact, you're the one that inspired me to bring this up. And that is that Stock Bandit got a hold of some options, actually, I think he mentioned a couple weeks ago. So why would you do that? Well, because you want to get in ahead of the news. News events are going to drastically change the value of an option. I mean, all things being equal, every option has a value to it in relation to the stock price. But you start adding other factors. Time of the year, news events, an earthquake, news that affects the whole general market, news that affects the stock itself. For example, in this case, Facebook had announced a couple of weeks ago that Zuckerberg was going to be talking at this particular event. Now, Stock Bandit, since you're in the room here, can you tell me which strike you sold? I know I don't want to get into the advanced aspect of it, that he sold this, but I know you got the 18s, but was it the monthlies? Yep, I know it was the 18. I just wondered if it was the weeklies versus the monthlies. Okay, so it was a monthly that he purchased, or in this case he sold it, but the strategy can be either way. So in this case he sold the October 18s, and right now they're at the close of today they're trading at between 65 cents and 70 cents. So if you were to try to buy this, you'd get it. You'd have to either pay 70 or you can offer something in between. In his case, it's a little bit of an advanced strategy because he actually sold the put, and the reason he did that is because he's expecting Facebook to stay above 18 at least through expiration. This is the word I'm looking for. Okay, so he sold these for $1.10, and now if he wanted to, he can buy them back for 70 cents and then close out his position. Or if he thinks that Zuckerberg's information today was enough to keep this above 18 through expiration, then he'll keep the full $1.10. At some point in the future, this 18 might actually drift down into one of these price levels. See how 14, which is about $6 away from today's price, is only a nickel, 10 cents. So he may hold on to it completely through expiration, or he may turn around at some point and just close it out, buy it back for 10 cents, and he'll make $1. That's how that works, okay? But without getting into that, I just wanted to show you, let's say you wanted to know what this was going to be worth tomorrow. As it came out in the preschool class, you can't trade options for the most part. There are some that are available after hours, but for the most part, options are not traded after the market closes. It's kind of a pain in the neck, but that's just the way it is. So let's take a look at a different strategy that I was examining earlier today, just to give you an idea. So let's say you felt that Facebook was going to have a positive reaction to Zuckerberg's attendance at this meeting. Now, like Stock Bandit, it would have been better if you would have done this a few weeks ago. In fact, I'll show you what these were worth a few weeks ago, and you can notice the difference. But for now, let's say you decided to do that today, about an hour before the market closed, when we were talking about it in the room, and more so. So the ThinkOrSwim here is shading the options based on the at the money price. So even though it closed at $19.43, after hours it traded over 20. So here it is at 20.07 by 20.11. That's the bid and ask. And so the shading drifted into the 20 section. But if this was before the market closed, you likely might have seen that the 19s would have been a fair option to get. And if I have my Greeks on here, I would see that the well, my delta is a little messed up because it's after hours, but I'd be willing to say that that this delta was in the 50s, the 40s or the 50s here, which would have made it, just for purposes of this explanation, it means that the option will move 50 cents for every dollar that the stock moves. So that's a pretty good ratio. You know, if you're going to buy an option, yeah, look at these out here. They're only a nickel, but they're moving 3 cents for every dollar. It's going to take you forever to make money on it. It's going to have to move from down here at 19 all the way out here to 29 before you start making anything. So that's not helpful. So anyway, let's say you bought the 19s, and let's just say, for argument's sake, you paid this full 90-cent price on that option right before the market closed. Okay? Now here in ThinkOrSwim, you've got a lot of different choices. We are looking at a single spread on the options. So in other words, you're looking at the individual strike prices, 18, 19, 20. And then there's this layout section here on the right of that, which says, give me a second, I'm on the Greeks. So I'm going to change that here to theoretical price and mark. Okay, what that does is, again, let's say we're looking at the 19s, and the bid and ask is still here, 85 by 90. But what it also does is give us two columns here. One is the mark. In other words, it's basically the midway point between the bid and the ask. And it's the price that you would, if you're going to place a limit order, you know, unless the trading was moving around a lot and you just want to place a market order, for the most part, the volume is low enough, you'll place a limit order, and that price is 87.5 cents for that order. So you would probably, you can't put half cents for the purchase, so you'd put in 87 cents and try to get the guy that's offering it for 90 to come down to you at 87. But if he doesn't, you may have to move up to 90 and take it for 90. Okay? But at any rate, over here on the left is a theoretical price. Now this is the price based on several factors. In one case, it's based on what the stock is trading at after hours. So you see that the stock went up from 1943 and settled around the 2007, 2011 price. So already this option that you might have purchased at 90 cents has moved about 17 cents. This is just the value, the approximate value of that option after hours. And I just clicked outside that window. Apologize. Let me get back to that. It is this one. No. I guess I'm on the main. I didn't realize that. Here we go. I don't know why it says gold up there. It threw me off. Sorry about that. Any rate, so here's what the power of ThinkOrSwim is for this. Look at here, you have date and you have stock price adjustment. So you can take the date, instead of the 11th, which is today, change it to tomorrow's date. Okay? Stock price adjustment. Well, it closed, and these values are based on the closing price, all things being equal.
So you can approximate the open tomorrow, and this you probably tomorrow morning you'd adjust this. So here it is, 1943. The ask is 2011, so that's about what, 69 cents? I mean, no, 68 cents. Okay, so that means we can adjust this and put in 68 cents. Okay, now you'll notice the price went from $1.07 to $1.75. So if this price holds till tomorrow at the open, you can expect Facebook, if it opens at 2011, you can expect this option to open, or be worth anyway, $1.75. So that's pretty good. You could have picked it up for 90 cents right before the close, and tomorrow morning sell it for $1.75 right at the open. So that would be, if you were able to get that somebody to buy it from you, you're looking at a 85-cent gain, just about a double of the stock value for an overnight trade. Now, again, I'm using different terms, and I heard it said earlier tonight about holding options overnight, and there's all different strategies out there. So I'm not recommending one over the other. But just for purposes of this exercise and showing you the effect of the stock price on the option price and how you can use this tool to make the adjustment. Further is here the volatility adjustment. If you recognized the change from today to tomorrow, you can actually change that as well. I haven't looked up the exact ratio to share that with you guys, but I think you get the idea. And just for purposes of this video, I'm noticing that I'm not sure you guys can even see these price levels, but just to zoom in so you can see it. So that's how you can tell the effect of the stock price change on the option by using these tools. Now, of course, there's other factors with regards to these option prices, and that includes time. And so that's why you have the date here. I changed it to tomorrow. What would it be worth on Friday? Let's see, I'm looking at the wrong month. Thursday the 13th. Here it is. Still $1.75. Let's go to the 14th. Still $1.75. So take a look at this $1.75 mark. I'm going to keep changing the date. And let's see when it starts to change in value. You notice the ones below it are changing. They're losing value. Oh, okay, I hit expiration. So apparently, based on where we are, and this monthly option expires on the 3rd Friday of the month. So that's the 21st. Technically, it settles on the Saturday. That's why 9/22 is on here. But the 19 option it's showing is not getting affected, and that's because it's sitting over $20. So you'll notice the ones below it here is going from 75, 76, 77. So every day it was losing a penny or so. Over the weekend it was losing more than a penny, losing a couple pennies. So that's how time has an effect on the stock, on the option price. And you know, this is the basics of it. Obviously, when it comes to the trading day, it's not going to stay at the same price. So your option is not necessarily going to change by just a penny. So that's the idea. So we have a question coming in. If you sell that option tomorrow at the 85-cent profit, what's the profit if you bought 20 contracts? And you're getting the answer there in the room. But here's what I'll do. I'll bring up Notepad, and we can talk about it here. So let me change my font to a larger font. How's that? Is that a good font? Maybe go to bold. Okay. So each contract is leveraging 100 shares. So when it says that the contract is 85 cents, it's going to cost you $85 to purchase that one contract. Okay? So if you bought 20 contracts, you'd have to multiply that by $85. And that would be what? 850, 850 is 1,700, right? So you'd put $1,700 into this trade, and then it went up to, we said, $1.75, and that was about 90 cents in that case, right? So that means you would sell the 20 contracts. I'm sorry, the profit you'd get is 90 cents or $90. And so your profit would be 1,800. Okay? So in other words, when you sell it, it would be $3,500 that you're selling it for. And then, of course, your commissions. But that's how the trade would go. As a strategy, in general, if you do make a trade like this, I've seen, I'll just give you one tip. It would be not to necessarily sell all 20, unless you figured that the trend was over and that there's your pop tomorrow and you want to bank your money and then go on to something else. You could do that. But one strategy would be to sell 80% of your position. So 80% of 20 would be 16 contracts. Let me move this so you can see it. Okay. So that would be 16 contracts, and then you'd be holding 4 to see if it goes up in value even further. That's just one strategy to do that. You're just basically holding on to 20% as a runner, so to speak, on the position. But you know, this was based on the 19 strike price of Facebook monthly expiration. Okay, and so being that you have just over a week of time left in the value, then unless Facebook's going to start shooting up to 21, 22, etc., it would probably make sense to close out the position and maximize your value of that trade. Now, I wanted to tell you another way to look back on prices, and that's in a different place in ThinkOrSwim. So let me close this out, and I'm going to head over to the let me think of where I was looking at this earlier. Yeah, the Analyze tab, and that has the Think Back sub-menu here. Let me zoom in so you can see it. Okay, the Analyze tab and the Think Back choice here that we're going to use. That's what we're looking at. I'm going to just pop this window out so that I can, if I shrink it down, it helps on the broadcast for the resolution to appear a little nicer. Okay, so bear with me while I do that. And again, in this case, I want to show you, oh yeah, Facebook. I was going to show you Facebook. And here we have the date. Okay, so the trading day on the screen is September 10th, which is yesterday's date. So let's go back 2 weeks and say that you got into this trade. Now, I don't know why, Stock Bandit, you got into this trade 2 weeks ago. Did there happen to be some news 2 weeks ago about this? I mean, I did see a note for an article on the 4th of September. I'm seeing a question in the room, and I know Stock Bandit is answering it, but for those that are listening in on the show, the question was, if Facebook goes to $10 a share, what happens? and I guess you're asking me what happens to your position. You just let the options expire and lose the original $1,700. The answer to that would be yes. You could, it would go down in value. Now, from now until next week, the option may have some value, but in essence, and this is a basic thing that a lot of people are scared of buying options. The fact is that you're only out the money you put into the trade. So if you were to, now that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense when you're talking about calls, because obviously you can buy Facebook at $19 a share. It could go to $10, and you can hold on to the same shares. Let's say it's 100 shares. You can hold on to those 19 shares until the cows come home and wait around for it to move back over $10. And you never have lost your position unless the company goes bankrupt, and then you lose the money. But when it comes to options, it doesn't work like that. If you lay out money for one contract, and let's say you spent $85, and that option goes to, and the stock, if the stock goes to $10, and your option now, because you bought the 19 strike price, the option now is worth a nickel or less, then you're only out your $85. But you can't wait for Facebook to go back over 19 and make that option worth something. So from that standpoint and that strategy, then sure, you could be looking at the calls versus stocks, and it would seem that buying the stocks would make more sense. One of the powers of options, and there are many, is when it comes to puts. Because if you short Facebook, let's say 100 shares of Facebook at $1,900, which means you have to borrow 100 shares from another trader, and you have to lock up $1,900 in your account, and it goes down to $10, now you're out 9 times 100, you're out $900, right? 1,900 versus 900. So you're out $900, and it could go to zero in that case, and sure, you'd be out your $1,900. But in this strategy, actually, and forgive me for not having my notes ready, and I do see your questions, I'll get to that in a second. Let's reverse the strategy. Let's say you shorted Facebook at 19. 100 shares cost you $900, right? I'm going to put that on the screen here. Short Facebook, 100 shares at 19 a share. So you put 1,900 in the trade. Then Facebook goes to 29. What happens? Suddenly you get a call from your broker, and your broker says, you need more money in your account. Why? Because now the position is $2,900. So they're either going to cut your position in half and leave you with 50 shares, or you're going to have to put another $1,000 in the account to cover that position. So when you want to short a stock, you can't simply let it ride and wait for it to come back, in this case come back down to 19. Okay, that's the idea about short squeezing, that folks get squeezed out of their position. They don't have the cash to keep it going. But in this case, let's say you buy the 19 strike of a put, and let's just move this out of the way for a second and come back to here. I changed this to the 4th, but let me move that out of the way. We'll come back to here real quick, September 19, and now we're looking at the puts. So the 19 put is going to cost you 70 cents. Okay, you see that? So 70 cents. So 100 shares, or I should say one contract, is going to cost you $70. So in this case, if Facebook decides to go to $29 and you expected it to drop, you're not going to have to come up with another $1,000 to put into your account. Instead, you will simply be out your $70 for being wrong. And that's it. Come the end of next Friday, it expires worthless. You don't even have to spend money on the commissions for the second side of the trade. You're just out your $70 and you move on to something else. Okay? So, from that standpoint, options become very useful. You can short a stock, or let's put it this way, you can be bearish on a stock by purchasing something instead of selling something, and therefore, if it goes against you, you're only out what you spent. You see how that works? So let me look over some of the questions you guys had there. I think I answered some of this. And Stock Bandit, I appreciate you giving some feedback to the guys. Do I play any leaps? I have purchased leaps in the past. It's not part of my main strategy, so I don't do it in general. But I've made some money on some leap plays before. Leaps are good for long-term strategies, and I'm generally looking more at a closer time frame, so I don't necessarily get into leaps, but they're there. And we have this other question. If you sold the $18 put, if Facebook goes to 10, you still have the obligation to buy stock at 18 for a loss of $8 a share or $800 a contract, and et cetera, et cetera. And the answer, goodbyes, without checking your math, is probably yes, because you're asking me selling the put. In the example I have on the screen, I'm talking about buying the put, so you're only out the $70. Okay? In your example, you're talking about selling the put, or what has the terminology of a naked put. So you're selling something that you don't own. Okay? That makes it naked. And so yes, if you sell a put and the strategy goes against you, then you have an obligation to make good on it. And the broker will make sure you do that. And that's the strategy that Stock Bandit used. In his case, he sold the October, let's bring it up on the screen here. He sold the October 18s, I believe he said, for $1.10. All right, now it still have a lot of value left in it because there's still another 6 weeks left in this stock. In fact, another tool for ThinkOrSwim is, if I look right here, it says October 12, 2012. The 39 is how many days are left to expiration. So there's 39 days left for this October put. He sold it for $1.10. Anytime between now and then, he can buy it back at whatever this value is. He doesn't have to wait till expiration and deal with a situation where he has to make good on the purchase. Of course, if his strategy was that he expects Facebook to be a long-term value play, and here's another way to trade options, is he could sell this for the $1.10, and then later on, Facebook drops below the 18 strike price, and so the value of that option changes dramatically, and he's not going to turn around and, let's say just for sake of argument, pretend this is expiration day, and here's the 21, it's 270. So let's say it was worth 270, the 18 is worth 270 come a few weeks from now. Well, he's not going to want to spend another $1.60 to buy it back. That's a huge mistake, amount of money he's putting into the trade, right? So another strategy, if he can afford to buy the 18 strike price, for every contract, 100 shares. All right, so let's just, for argument's sake, and I'll use the notepad again. Let's say, and forgive me, Stock Bandit, if I'm saying too much about your trading, but I appreciate the example. Let's say you sell the October 18 strike for $1.10, right? And then, and this is Facebook. Then Facebook goes to 15, right? So if his strategy is that he thinks Facebook is still a good value and is still going to go back over 20 in the future, instead of being out his $1.10 or having to buy it back for some other amount of money, he could let himself be assigned the shares. And this would mean buying 100 shares at 18 a share at the 18 strike price. So that's another $1,800, right? So he already spent 110 on the contract, and then he's buying the shares for 1,800. He could take care of closing out the position by getting assigned the shares. He still keeps the 110. So really, instead of this costing him the 1,800, it's costing him less than that to be assigned the shares. And then he can hold on to them as they go back up in value. That's another strategy. For me, when it comes to trading stocks or options, I'm not interested in holding things to expiration. So keep that in mind. When you guys are in the options room, we have traders in there. They have multiple strategies. So make sure you understand the strategy they're using. You're going to see people that are selling strikes. They're selling an option. In some cases, they may be selling a put and a call position so that the both of them cancel each other out if there's an issue. And so you don't run into a situation where they got to put another $1,000 into the account in our short example. But what happens is they're talking about selling and not buying. So you have to know the strategy involved. In their cases, and this is a lot of times with Learjet and with Stock Bandit does this, and Die Laughing does this, and I'm sure there's others. In those strategies, they're looking for the stock to never hit those price levels, and therefore they keep the money. All right? So this is another strategy. Like in Stock Bandit's example, he sold this 18 strike for $1.10, and he never thinks Facebook is coming down to 18. Okay? And actually, I think you have to add, Stock Bandit, correct me on this, I think you have to add this to the 18, so really then you're expecting it to stay above $19.10. That would be your break even, if I'm not mistaken. And as long as it stays above $19.10 until expiration, he keeps the full $1.10. That's another income strategy that you can use. And depending on your broker, he may have to hold for every contract, I don't know, is it maybe $500 in your account just to cover it? But whatever the case, there's different requirements depending on how long you've been trading. They're gonna make it. Okay, he's telling me it's $17.90. So not $16.90. You're subtracting the $1.10, right? You sold it, so you close the position, in other words. Or are you telling me that when you sell it, the math is different? Help me out here. I'm looking at an 18 strike price, right? Okay, he's got $16.90. All right, so it is $16.90. So it's an 18 strike price put for $1.10. So break even equals the strike minus the purchase price. So in other words, I already did the math, but 1690 is 18 minus $1.10. All right, so this is break even at expiration. So October 19th in this case. Okay. So at expiration, as long as the price of Facebook stays above 1690, if I'm reading this right, correct me, Stock Bandit. As long as Facebook stays above 1690, then his option will be worth, at least above that price, or at least below that price, I should say, and therefore he can let it expire. If I'm reading this right. And he's safe. Okay? You can take a look at that. Mark your calendars and take a look at it over the next few days. What I wanted to do is kind of ran into a whole nother aspect here after hours. Don't mind talking with you guys. I might just clip this off of the regular tools of the trade show, but I wanted to show you this think back aspect to ThinkOrSwim, and I did pop out a little window, so let's get that back on the screen and take a look at that. So what I wanted to show you, we were just now looking at calls on Facebook, if you remember, at 85.90. Remember we were looking at that? These are the Septembers, 85.90. What I did was I went back in time. Here's September 4th. And so you can use this think back feature to see what were these options worth on September 4th. So I'm going to expand this. And the stock price was $17.70. And the 19 strike price was worth between 30 and 35. That was the spread. So if you think about it, if you bought these back here, I'm looking at the 4th, so that was what, a week ago. If you bought this option a week ago, you could have paid 35 cents. Now, I'm going to highlight that and change the date, and I hope it's, even though the price of the stock is going to change, so you're going to notice this jumping up and down. It's only showing 4 strikes. Let me change that to 6, make this a little wider for you. But then as I move the date and the price of the stock changes, you'll notice this move around because it's only showing you in relation to in the money, out of the money, right? So here we go. I meant to be reading those off. Let me go back to the 4th. So it's the 19 is 30 cents by 35 cents. In fact, I can change this to the theoretical price and get the market price here. So 32.5. I'm going to focus on the market price. We go to the 5th, and the 19 is now 57.5. The stock went from 17.70 at the close to 18.58 at the close. So the stock moved up about 80 cents, and the option moved up about 20 cents. No, I'm sorry, 30 cents. In this case, really $30. Your position would have gone up for one contract. We go to the 6th of September. It's now worth $67. $62 on the 7th. That's a Friday. So these next days, it doesn't do anything. Come Monday, it's worth $47. And then Tuesday is today with the news volatility. You might hear that word mentioned. So there's your news volatility. And it's now jumped, you got to be looking at this price, $87. So it went from buying it for $35 a week ago, it's now worth $87. Okay, so what are we talking about? Roughly $50 on the contract. So again, if you've got $1,900 to put into the trade, okay, fine. In a week, it went up about $2. So you made $20 on your trade in a week. Of course, you could have day traded it and made a lot more than that. But I'm just giving you an idea if you're trying to understand the relationship between option prices and stock prices. In a week, it changed by $2. From the option, you could have bought a call a week ago for $35 and this week sold it for before the market closed, you could have sold it for $85. You made $50 and you spent how much? You bought it for 35 cents. So it cost you $35 and you made $50 in a week. So that's well over 100%, right? So that's the power of options. It's leverage, really. I'm not saying that you would take the same $1,900 and put it into this trade. That's probably a more advanced strategy. But if you're an average trader, maybe you would have bought 2 contracts, 4 contracts. If you buy it in some kind of an increment like that, you can always close out half the position or close out 80% of the position and hold on to some for runners. And in this case, if you knew the news was coming out, or you knew that he was coming to be at this show, you could have spent the $35. Let's say you bought 10 of them, $350 into the trade. Okay? I'll show you the power of options. So let's say on 9/4 you bought 10 contracts, 19 strike of Facebook calls, and I'm saying this in such an odd way. It would really be Facebook, and you would just say 19 calls in the room if you're just talking about it. Okay, so and you paid 35 cents. So 10 times 100 times 35 equals $350 into the trade. Okay? Before today's close, because now here's the strategy. You don't know what Zuckerberg's going to say. He could come out and step on himself and say something stupid because he's young and inexperienced. I'm just throwing it out there. Obviously, he knows something he's doing right. He's got way more money than I have. But anyway, let's say you don't want to take a chance of what he's going to say after hours. So, before today's close, you close 80% of the position. So that would be you sell 8 contracts for 85 cents. Okay, so 8 times 100 times 85 equals, do some math over here. Okay, $680. Now you've already made back your original $350. So it's a free trade at this point, right? And the balance, you hold 2 contracts until tomorrow. Okay? And by the way, I forgot to say this was the September 19 calls. So you hold 2 contracts until tomorrow, and then tomorrow morning, and we did the math before, sell the 2 for, I think we said $1.75 was their worth. Okay? Now, if he came out and stepped on himself and the stock went down to $10 tomorrow, then you're out the money on those two other trades, right? But you are on the trade itself. If you look at this as a single position trade, you made more than twice your money. You went from $350 in to $680 out. So that's a fantastic trade. But if you held on to it, let the two runners go, so that's 2 times 100 times $1.75, which is another $350 on 2 contracts. And if you are a technical trader and you looked at the charts, you might decide that the trend for Facebook will continue past tomorrow, and that maybe you sold one of them tomorrow, banked the $1.75, and held one of them as a runner, whatever you decided to do. But that's an idea that you can follow. Stock Bandit, I appreciate the information you gave. I think the examples we gave still applies. But for those that are playing at home, Stock Bandit went and checked back on his notes. It looks like he had sold the January puts actually for 2 1/4. Maybe they have at some point dropped down to $1.10. Or were you looking at $1.10 for Baidu? So $2.25 for Facebook, the January 18s. Sounds like you're saying to me. Okay. But no worries. These are just different strategies that you can use. And I'm just showing you here the using the think back section here. It's a way for you to go back in time. If you're trying to understand the relationship between the option prices and the stock prices, take a look at some stocks today, see what their option prices are, and then step back through time and look and see what they were in the past, and maybe it'll start to become clearer to you. It's just one way to look at it. There's actually another feature of ThinkOrSwim that we'll look at another time, which is the on-demand feature. It's kind of like a DVR of the stock market, and unfortunately it won't be able to play back today's data, but it plays back data from a couple of days ago up until a couple of months ago. So you can actually go back in time and see a strategy if you'd like to. Maybe if you're learning a new strategy, use it as a way to train yourself. Go back a few months, take a look at what stocks are setting up, pretend you would have taken a trade, and then advance it in time and see what it would be worth after some time. You can even hit the play button and let it run itself live minute by minute. You can double it, play it like kind of a fast forward kind of thing, and trade it live. If you want to practice scalping, it's a great trade. And the market makers move is also a cool feature. All right, but that covers some of the things I wanted to show today. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it informative. I'm going to just basically go through the video at some point and take out the music so we don't have any conflict of copyright material in the video. But we'll take care of doing that, and then we'll get it posted in the room for everyone who is all sleepy and had to go to bed. But we appreciate all you guys. We appreciate the members supporting the site, and you guys in the room there for supporting me. I appreciate the feedback you give. If you have any questions, if you have questions for Johnny, you could send it to dtrs@daytradingradio.com. It'd also be helpful if you post your questions in the forum. That way, as we get our answers, we can build a library of answers that are useful for everyone. And otherwise, you can ask those questions there. If you've got questions for me, you can reach me in the room, also in the forum. There's a way to do private messages. You can also reach me on Skype. We gave that out earlier, Mr. Enacon. And you can shoot me an email, which is brian@briguytrading.com. and I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have. I know we lost a lot of the members, but I appreciate the guys hanging in there. Stock Bandit, Kumar, Alex, 01, and Tomahawk. And Goodbyes might still be hanging around, and Boca Dude. And if I click over to the futures room, I see Michael Freeman and Trey Free or Die Hard are busy at work in the futures room. So you guys take care. We'll see you tomorrow, bright and early. Johnny should be on, if not earlier, he should be on by 9 a.m. Live commentary for the market until 4:30. And also, guys, get ready for the Ultimate Trader Showdown this Thursday, where Airman will be taking on our very own day trading rockstar. And we'll see how that competition pans out. Remember, if Airman wins, he gets to keep half the money. So that's actually a really fun thing. His investment is just his time. But hopefully he's able to maximize the value of that opportunity and be able to take Rockstar for everything he has. Well, of course, Rockstar just had to put in a little bit of money. If Airman can grow that sucker to tenfold, all the better, right? So maybe we'll start lobbying Rockstar for the opportunity to keep a little bit more than half if he happens to profit as much as he very well could profit with a whole day of trading. Anyway, just sneaking that in there, Johnny. Just a thought. Not saying you have to change the rules at this point, but Airman seems to be up for the challenge, and I hope you guys have fun with that. So tune in for that at ultimatetradershowdown.com. You can also find it here on our website, daytradingradio.com. You find the links there in the room and on the home page. So thanks to Ratfink as well. Appreciate you checking in. Wingnut, the rest of you guys. And if Johnny's around or RPM's around and he can put Johnny's charts back on, that'd be great. Otherwise, the rest of the night we'll just run a little bit of video for you guys of some of the past trading videos that Johnny has done. Okay, so I'll close out the show here, maybe leave you guys with a couple songs, and we'll see you in the AM. Thanks, guys.